Deadlines at dusk, confessions by morning edition. My name is Bennett and I make chaos read like grammar. I'm a copy editor on the night desk at a metropolitan paper. The kind that insists print is a ritual even if the world keeps scrolling past. On paper, I fix commas, kill cliches, cut 3 words that don't earn their keep. In practice, I stand between a headline and a lawsuit, between a reporter who loves their subject and a reader who loves their coffee. I carry a stubby pencil, a grease-stained stylebook, and a little ruler I use to measure how much truth fits in a column inch. The presses downstairs teach humility. You are important until the ink dries. I live with Nico. He's a paramedic who knows how to ask a body to stay. He comes home smelling like antiseptic and sirens, kisses the top of my head when I'm hunched over proofs, and sleeps like a man who keeps a city alive 4 minutes at a time. We keep a rule on an index card taped to our fridge beneath a novelty magnet shaped like a front page. Say it by 10. Nights make noon meaningless. 10 p.m. is when our worlds overlap long enough to be honest. We wrote the rule after a winter when we mistook exhaustion for intimacy. The Wednesday the spell check behaved and I didn't, the newsroom leaned into its favorite performance, certainty at volume. A councilman had been caught trading favors for occupancy permits, and the story wanted a headline that could be shouted across a street. The Metro editor stalked around with a red pen like it was a machete. The publisher appeared in a suit that believed in absolution. The managing editor practiced saying, "Careful," in 3 languages. At 9:56 my phone vibrated with the joint email Nico and I use for deliveries and emergencies. Thank you for your stay, the Beaumont. Time, 12:083:02. Points, 200 added. 10 crawled up my spine and sat in my mouth like a name I didn't want to say. I didn't call him. Our second rule saves us from dramatics, 2 loops around the block before nomming it. My loop is the alley behind the loading dock, where the press room vents breathe out warm air and the streetlight hums a note that pretends to be comfort. I walked it twice. The city was busy pretending it hadn't seen anything. A columnist smoked like a metaphor she didn't need. The alley told me the sentence old brick prefers. You already know. He arrived with a smile I should have edited. Cass, he said, short for Cashin, and slipped his card into the space between my keyboard and the day. Communications director for the councilman's office, on leave for optics, and now a consultant to several stakeholders interested in accuracy. He was the kind of man who calls reporters by their first names even when he shouldn't, and who never forgets who corrected his copy. I'd met him twice at briefings, and once at a fundraiser where he made sincerity look like a sport. I brought you an apology, he said, holding out an iced coffee the way a man offers absolution he didn't earn. Not for me, for how late I'm going to keep you. Truth is its own insomnia, I said. You make truth legible, he said, and looked at my hands like a compliment. He hovered near the edge of the night desk, far enough to pretend he wasn't in the way. When a reporter filed a paragraph that could be read as libel by a man with a favorite lawyer, I cut it with that little ruler like a surgeon, and Cass watched me with the kind of admiration I've learned not to find adorable. Drink after, he asked casually, as if drinks were punctuation. Nico texted at 9:12. 12-hour shift turned 14. 2 overdoses, 1 stroke, 1 miracle. Dinner is cereal unless you're a hero. I typed, I'll be decent, which is the only oath I trust. I meant to send it and put my phone face down on the galleys like that could keep the room from knowing anything at all. The Beaumont bar was built for men who confuse strong lighting with character. Cass sat in the corner where the lamps make cheekbones forget their job. He asked what it feels like to make other people's sentences edible. I told him it feels like stealing heat from a stove you don't pay for. He touched the back of my hand with 2 fingers, like a man checking a live wire, and asked, "Here," with his eyes. I said, "Now," because I am the kind of fool who has learned the difference between revision and denial, but likes to pretend I haven't. The room had that citrus hotel smell that makes receipts feel like artifacts. He kissed like a man who never needs to rehearse, generous where biography demands and selfish where his mouth insisted. He pressed me against the window, and the city pretended to mind its business. He asked without verbs. I answered with both hands. We left the lamp on because daylight had been added to the terms in a language my ethics still refuses to speak. After, he lay on his stomach with his face turned to the window the way houseplants learn prayer. "You'll forgive him," he said, meaning Nico, meaning the part of me that believes sleep is holy. "I'll speak by 10, I said. He smiled like he'd negotiated a clause. Nico was already home when I got in, the couch holding him like a promise it intended to keep. He had a line of tape across his forearm where an IV had played tourist. I stood in the kitchen with the front page magnet starring like a witness. At 10, I told him the nouns: hotel, elevator, mouth, hands, yes. I did not attempt an argument. He listened like a man who has counted to 60 in rooms where 60 mattered. "Do you love him?" he asked. His voice was not an ambulance, it was a hand on a shoulder. "I love the hour where nobody needs me to be useful," I said. He nodded once, the way good medics acknowledge facts they don't like. He took the marker and wrote under our rule in small, steady capitals: "No rooms we can't name at this table. If we break it before midnight together." He underlined together twice, then kissed my knuckles as if to make the skin remember the decision. Cass didn't leave answers alone. He sent me a list of questions worth asking about our councilman's story with numbers next to them as if curiosity needed a budget. He texted a photo of the press cylinders before dawn with the caption "proof," which made me want to unplug the building. He had a knack for presence, the expensive art of being in the room when a verb gets to choose its past tense. The Metro editor called him useful, which is an insult and a demand. The gossip vertical that eats our industry published a grainy still from the Beaumont elevator. My shoulder, his mouth, a caption that tried to be witty about copy edits. Nico didn't forward it. He printed it and taped it inside the cabinet where we keep coffee beans, then took it down at 10 and replaced it with a list: milk, bandages, oranges, mercy. This is how he files. Props make plots efficient. The Beaumont called to say housekeeping had found a narrow gold ring in a room linked to my loyalty number, engraved C+B on the inside. Not mine. The clerk asked if I wanted to claim it. I said, "Hold for owner," with my newsroom voice, the one that turns temperature down on drama. Work tried to save me with speed. The managing editor wanted a reproachful subhead. The reporter wanted a line that could make a donor cry. The lawyers wanted another paragraph that could betray nothing. We found a rhythm that didn't hate us. I cut a quote because it overlapped nothing but ego. I wrote a head with one verb and no adjectives, and the presses accepted our offer. Cass sent a message I ignored and another I deleted. The night made its noise. Then the little red light appeared where no light should be. We found a wireless mic taped under the night desk, cheap, persistent, patient. It had been recording the pre-deadline murmurs, the jokes, the curses, the okay, but what if? The moments when you discover which facts survive air. The IT guy peeled it off with the kind of disgust that makes men polite. Legal took custody while pretending to have custody of all the feelings. The label on the battery pack belonged to a firm Cass had name-dropped at the bar, as if it were a band. At 10, I told Nico about the recorder and the ring and the elevator photo and the flavor of my cowardice. He made coffee with deliberate smallness. Are we people who want to be interesting or people who want to be safe? He asked, not as a standard but as a map. Because I know how to do either one with you. I'd like it to be the second for a while. I want us, I said, which felt like plagiarizing every adult I wish I'd been sooner. Cass tried a finale because men who live by narrative think closure is a sport. He asked me to meet at the Beaumont for clarity, as if clarity were a thing you could buy with a receipt. He held up the ring between two fingers, the arithmetic on the inside glittering like permission. Say my name, he said quietly, as if mere syllables could notarize what we were doing. I said, no, and walked to the elevator while the city placed its bets. The recorder scandal resolved with the kind of boring that means institutions learned enough to keep going. The firm was dismissed. A memo grew the words values and training and pretended not to notice their distance. We put a sign under the night desk that says consent is not implied. The councilman resigned. The story ran above the fold with a headline I can live with. The city moved on to its next certainty. If you came for erotics, I will not pretend we were saints. There was a wall, a yes, hands where we agreed hands would be, a mouth that believed in the moment more than the man. The lamp was on because daylight had become part of the contract. It was heat without metaphor, and I'm not sorry. If you came for intrigue, you got a ring with arithmetic, a recorder with ambitions, an elevator camera that thinks it works for the arts section, and a newsroom that keeps paper holy because it needs something to forgive. Nico and I practiced boring and discovered it was mostly maintenance and mercy. He pressed his thumb under my jaw one night in the kitchen and asked here. In a voice that could have been a question on a monitor, I said now, and I meant it in a way that made the magnets on our fridge nervous. We left the lamp on. We remembered our names. The Beaumont sent a polite email about new loyalty options. I archived it. The ring's other initial belonged to a man named Carter who retrieved it with a lawyer and relief. He nodded at me like the world had handed him a better draft. Cass sent one last text from a number that looked like it belonged to a pop-up. You were precise. I wrote, I prefer accurate, and muted the thread. Accuracy is a window, precision is a mirror. I'm trying to own more windows. Work stayed work. I cut a column that loved itself too loudly. I saved a sentence that didn't know it could be beautiful with fewer commas. A reporter left a cupcake on my desk with a note that read, for saving me from adjectives. The presses started their low hymn, and the building shook the way churches shake when people sing like they mean it. I walked the alley once and then again. The streetlight hummed. The city breathed. At 10, we stand in our small kitchen and say the thing we promised to say. Nico added another line to the card in his calm medic print. If you burn something, do it where I can see and help find water. We didn't laminate it. Paper should breathe. We eat cereal or eggs, depending on whether the day forgives us. We put the lamp on or off as needed. The fridge magnets believe we're reporters, but we are only two men who keep choosing the second headline over the first because it tells more truth. I am not a moral, I am a practice. For a few hours at a time, I catch sentences before they hurt someone they weren't supposed to. For a few hours at a time, Nico keeps hearts from wandering off. We come home and rehearse accuracy with each other. The city prints and sleeps and wakes and scrolls and prints again. Cass will find another newsroom to orbit, another headline to haunt, another ring to engrave with arithmetic. I will still have my pencil and my ruler and my stubborn refusal to believe in synonyms for almost. And at 10, the front page on our fridge will look at me like a witness, and I will tell the truth, and we will practice again.